We are. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Soul Connections Conversations. I am Teresa Echaide, your host and creator of this series. This is a gathering space where we share our spiritual journeys and our soul's connections, purpose, and gifts. We are weaving a spiritual community here. On my spiritual journey, I have met so many wonderful soul sisters and brothers that are soul connections. Wonderful, wonderful souls that have helped me, guided me, and taught me, and above all, connected at a deep soul level. I am honored, happy, and excited to bring them into this circle to share their stories with us. And today we have all the way from Italy, my friend Enrica. Hello, Enrica.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Hi, Teresa.
Yeah, welcome. And let me tell the audience about you. Enrica Ferruzzi, born in Rome, Italy, with a dual cultural upbringing, driving a successful corporate career with the hospitality industry. Despite achievements, an inner yearning for a deeper meaning emerged. After 2 decades in the corporate world, Enrica defied norms, resigning for a life attuned to her core. Her journey, marked by loss and restlessness, led her to rediscover ancient healing arts. Guided by spirit allies in restoring lost pieces of her soul, she became a teacher, guide, and healer, sharing timeless transformation practices over the past decade and training individuals in unlocking healing potential. Enrica has now authored Beats of Light, detailing her profound alignment, a testament to embracing change through empowering spiritual practices. So excited to have you here, my soul sister.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, we're gonna dive into everything, your journey, what you're doing. But just to get started, like, just tell the audience about yourself, your growing up, like, what experiences or stories do you have that contributed to your spiritual growth and, that kind of
Mhm.
work?
Yeah, thank you. That's beautiful. First of all, the introduction, thank you. You're so joyful and lovely. And the introduction, the words that always catch my attention on my introduction is defines norm, defies norm, sorry. So that's what I'm all about. But basically,
Which is the opposite of define
defining
sport.
norms. Yeah, exactly. Like part of my brain was like defining. No, no. So anyway, but yes, I like to tell stories as you do. Um, well, when I came to my mom was from Oregon and my dad was from Rome, and I grew up with these two beautiful cultures, two languages, and as soon as I could, so right after high school, I left home and I at 19 and I came to the States, and I was there for almost 29 years until I recently returned for multiple reasons, one of which is to be closer to my father. And so the when I speak about this restlessness that I was living through a successful, beautiful career that I was really happy in, um, it it kind of evolved into this like understanding of what this restlessness was, because later, of course, after seeking professional help, it was labeled as anxiety, depression, and all these things. And I say them like this because back then I didn't care. I just needed help. I'm like, help me sleep, or I just need to be more functional at work. But I started to feel really uncomfortable in around 2008, 2009, to the point where I all I had was work. Basically, my mind was consumed with work, and I was very happy about it, but I didn't know any different. So it's not like I hate my job. I was one of these people. No, I was like, I loved, my teams. I trained people. It was wonderful. And then I could experience different cultures and work with international folks. And so, but this, I call it restlessness or heaviness, was what kind of drove me to understand, to try to understand what is happening, and I was always a curious person. And the catalyst to the beginning of a journey towards understanding the invisible realms or the invisible world, or inner, knowing kind of spiritual practices, let's say, was when my mother became ill with cancer and passed away within a short amount of time. And this was 2009 to 2009 and then 2010. So by this time I had, you know, already, like, I was almost ready to explode, and I did, until I finally went to to seek assistance, mainly for sleeping. And then I found wonderful professionals that could help me, through therapy and things like that. And one of my most trusted therapists sent me to mindfulness, and that was, as I described many times, was really the doorway to this other, dimension of who we are. And then I had never been exposed to anything like this. Of course, nobody teaches this stuff in school, at least where I grew up in Italy. And so for me, it was like, what is happening inside my mind? Because I could experience, parts of I can recognize, like, wow, there's way more than what we can observe with our five physical senses. So long story is, that was really the way for me to, like, I had this huge desire to seek, like, there is more. I don't know what this means, but I was gently guided. And of course now I know it wasn't, there's no accident. Nothing's ever a coincidence. I could see, like, looking back, I'm like, oh, so precious and so clever for the guides to the guidance system, to my higher self, whoever's your guidance system, which includes your higher self, but to push me in this way, and then read these books and go to this teacher. And I learned different things, and some resonated, others were just didn't, but it showed me, it did, like, it just helped me start to peel the layers. And in 2015, I walked into a studio where I experienced for the first time energy cultivation practices such as Qigong. And I was always drawn to movement as a way to relieve stress. The gym, basically gym and work were my best friends. So gym and work, gym, work. I'm so stressed, gym, and then work. And so movement was what really helped me calm my mind. So even through mindfulness, especially at the beginning, it was so difficult. I'm like, how do people just sit here and, like, be quiet? And I had, um, let's say that I was able to connect more with quieting my mind by doing maybe like mindful walking or mindful, observing. So that, like, using my body allowed me to just kind of become a little bit more present versus, and this just takes practice like anything else, and everybody can do it. But Qigong was the really, I think, part of the, what we call, initiations. And one more thing to add to this long answer is, when you ask what was, like, your entering this experience of delving into spiritual practices, was, um, when I guess, uh, my mind is so busy and I only have one mouth. I want to say that, like, the experiences that we call awakening, right? Like, I have a difficult time with sharing, expressing these words, because there is no one experience. There are multiple, of course. We have different levels of awakenings every day, maybe, but a real important one was when I could feel, when I experienced and feeling, these are just superficial words, but to when you can experience, when I could experience my true self, let's call it true self. And that was, I guess, the beginning of multiple experiences of that nature. But the first time was pretty devastating. And I say devastating because I felt this huge, almost like grief, like, I can't believe all the neglecting I've been doing this whole life. This sense of, like, when you, like, I just met something that was pulled away from me a million years ago, but I never knew that I was missing. And then everything made sense. This restlessness, whatever, anxiety, I'm already a hyper person, but I never resonated with the words, you have anxiety. I'm like, I don't know. I think it's a little bit deeper than that. And so with this recognition of like this bright light, and again, words are sometimes superficial in describing, then I felt like I cannot believe that life is not just about this. And so it took me maybe a couple years to understand what does that mean for me and now moving forward. And I'm still trying to figure it out, but I mean, I have a pretty good, let's say, I just jumped. I changed my life completely. So now with that, I'll just pause for a moment and let you talk.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Yes, I resonate with the movement that you mentioned. And yeah, anxiety and all these things are just like I think the psychologist terms because we're missing something in our lives. And for me, the movement became with being out in nature, hiking,
Right. Mhm.
and the nature connection. And to me, like I was having a conversation yesterday, it's like I miss that because, right now or like work is like we're in front of the computer for so long and it's very mental.
Right.
And when I go outside and I speak to the trees and I observe wildlife and everything makes me just pure joy and magic to being connected in nature that you're not in your mind, you're just in the present. And like I said, I go outside because I want to connect with nature, and the benefit added to that is that I'm walking and I'm moving and exercises, but I never go into, I'm not one of those that are like, okay, I gotta do 5 miles today and it has to be under a certain amount of time and see how many
Right.
steps. None of that. All of that is out the window. I don't even carry my phone. I just want to be. So that's the balance between the mental and the physical for me because I'm a Taurus, so very
Hmm.
physical land connection and nature connection. So I
Hmm.
appreciate you bringing that in because yes, I feel the same way, and I think a lot of us are very much in our day to day, a lot in our mind, and
Right.
could be very
Too
very
much.
yeah, yeah, too
Too
much. It's
much
like,
in our
and
mind. Hmm.
and it's a faithful servant, and then sometimes you're like, okay, you start doing other things, and you start unraveling, and then you spend so many hours on doing things or thinking about things, and that you're not even present, and time just goes
Right.
by. So yeah, and also as far as like spiritual awakening, yeah, there's like I think there's like a starting point that you are like there's the before you and the current you you
Yeah.
know
Right. It's
A-
like,
and
oh,
yeah, and of
right.
course, yeah, when you have that beginning, then you of course there's all these other experiences that come into your awareness, and it just
Right.
so it's just wonderful. It seems like there's a catalyst event that launches you, like you say, you jumped in, you dove
Yeah.
in, and that's a very important to go with that, to recognize that instead of resisting it, right?
Right.
Because what you resist persists and it won't leave you alone until you actually
Mhm.
start doing the work. So that's wonderful. And I just want to bring that up. Your book, Beats of
Oh,
Life.
thank you. So beautiful.
Yes. So to get to know more about Enrica's journey, highly recommend reading this book. And I like it because we resonate. A lot of our background is similar as being, bicultural, Europe and the US, and just traveling. I love traveling. That's my look. I have the world behind me and
Hmm.
I have California there. It's part of like it's my spiritual food, I guess, in a
Hmm.
way, knowing other cultures or spirituality, seeing sacred sites or just like the nature in other countries as well. And I love that you were part of that world and that
Hmm.
you are got to experience that in your life. That's such a wonderful thing. But let me just
Right.
ask you, if you were to pinpoint one event that just kind of launched you into your spiritual awakening, do you have one, or is just, I know you mentioned about your
Yeah.
mom, but I'm
Yeah, I
curious.
would say, I guess, I can say that mm, my mom becoming ill was, yeah, that was probably the time where my whole world I remember, like, just now, even remember walking around like a zombie because I felt like nothing matters actually. Whatever I thought I was worried about, it's pretty meaningless. And so I went through, of course, everybody handles change and big life changes in their own unique way. But for me, of course, at first I went through this immense anger. Like, I was just like, how are people still dying of cancer, healthcare systems, and she was in Italy. It was too late to bring her in the States, as if that would have helped. But like my mind. And then I went through this phase of yeah, nothing matters actually. Only like understanding ourselves better, because my mom apparently had a wonderful life, so adventurous. Her life's a movie. My dad was a captain on cargo ships. She lived in Portland, Oregon. How did they meet? The letters and you know, and then she comes to a country she doesn't, the American in town, the horse lady. Okay, the Mormon, in Italy. Anyways, so, and she had a difficult life, but a beautiful journey. And then I'm like, how is this possible? And I knew then, after studying some things, that I'm like, illness is a manifestation of something very, very deep. And so, yes, that was the what pushed me to really start to understand. And of course, at that time, the understanding meant research and studying, and what am I drawn to? And um, I, I went to school in Italy, and I studied humanities, let's say what they're called in English, Liceo Classico. And so I studied philosophy, the ancient Greek and Latin and history and all that. Okay, so the ancient world was, you know, everything I cared about. And I still only study ancient people. So then when I went to Mexico and I lived there in Yucatan for a while, like, of course, I worked to death. And then I'm like, oh, let's go look at the Mayan ruins, and study and actually, even today, I drew some Mayan light language glyphs for, every day I'll draw some cards to like help for guidance during the day. And I'm like, there it is. And then yeah, I tend to go off on a tangent anyways, but I w- applied myself into deep research. And yeah, like Indiana Jones, I am a researcher, and then I should have been an archaeologist. That was like my path actually.
Let me say something there,
Yeah.
because that's how I call myself too. I am like an I love Indiana Jones. I would have loved to have that kind of life. I'm a
Right.
spiritual archaeologist because
Oh, I
kind of how
love
you
it. Yeah.
mentioned. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I mean, ancient cultures and then traveling, that was my path. But then what happened is, just for fun, I got a job in a hotel a million years ago, and then I loved it and I was good at it. And then that, began my career, and I stayed. And 20 years later, that was that. And so, I didn't finish my studies or anything, but I've still today, I always research. So anyway, going back to the doorway, understanding so of course, Eastern practices were, the the only thing available where I could see like that they could um, give some insights onto the person, a human being, beyond the physical. So thinking about the energy systems, and all the different traditions of energy systems, because there are multiple, and some people resonate with Hindu yoga and Buddhism and Confucianism and so on and so forth, and there's no one right tradition. Is just there are truths in every one. But just became mm, very enthusiastic in the studies of these principles. Then I finally was able to practice them with my body, different internal um, energy movement internally, so such as meditation, visualization journeys, and dream journeys. And then it helped myself. I was able to help myself, and at that time, and then started teaching too, because that's what I do. I learn something, and then I have to share it with others. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's why I love to have you here, sharing I think storytelling or sharing our stories, it's helpful. It might resonate with somebody who's going through something similar to, and that's why I enjoy like talking to people, because you're like, you find out it's like, oh, we have a lot more in common, and similar paths, or I will get to learn something new from that person. And yeah, so I appreciate you sharing that. And what a beautiful like balance of East and West, right? Like the
Right.
Western mind and having the Eastern practices, ancient practices. I love Qigong too, and I do the same thing over and over again. I found this video on YouTube and I love it. I'm
Yeah,
just like,
that's, but when you were saying earlier about being out in nature, right? So, like, of course, like through training, you learn, well, m many people are familiar with these physical practices such as Qigong or Taoist yoga or Indian yoga, whatever, or Tai Chi is very popular. People know it. And then many people come, even when I had my studio in Arizona, would come to they would just wanted to learn forms and look very beautiful when you're doing the forms. Okay. And that's wonderful, right? But there is the fact that it's important to feel the energy also, so that you can experience that, because experiencing and feeling energy, not just with your head, is completely different. And so it changes you're not worried about, what do I look? Is this my hand right? Of course there's form but we're not trying to perform here. We're trying to heal and create a beautiful connection between the heart, mind, and relax the brain waves and your nervous system, and maybe get rid of your lower back pain, whatever's happening, or stress. And so then it becomes a spiritual practice, because you're using more aspects of yourself. And so when I speak of, like through experience, I like to share not only the physical movement, and this is why it's helpful, and I don't want to simplify it because it's profound training, but at the same time, any form of spiritual practice, just like even prayer or journaling or going out in nature and walking, becomes a multidimensional experience when you include more aspects of yourself. So if we're able to get to a point where we quiet the mind enough to be fully present, to observe, oh, I am consumed with this thought over and over, and not be like tormented by it, and then learn how to um, we have to really become good managers of our thought processes, because we're, like we said earlier, we're consumed by what's happening up here, and then the rest of the body is like, what about us? We have we have the rest of the body. So what I wanted to say, when you said going out in nature, it is so healing. And the reason is, of course, nature's consciousness and the heart and rhythm of the earth corresponds to ours too. So when we're just out in nature, even if we're not paying attention, we slowly begin to resonate with whatever's emanating from the ground. And it's just incredible. And finally, we also have science that shows us that, it's not just like, no, that's just a little too metaphysical for me. But it's true.
yeah, yeah, in that aspect, we're returning home to ourselves, to our true essence, which is nature. We are not separate, and that's kind of
Right.
that's why I like to share, my stories on what I do, and some people can reconnect with that, and get out of their head and come into their heart and their body, and like I said, reconnect to nature, because we are part of it. And yeah, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And let's shift it a little bit to how we connected, like our
Yeah, that would be
soul con
lovely.
soul connection, which it was earlier this year. I put on a summit, and Enrica was a part of the audience, and she reached out to me, and I'm like, oh, she's my soul sister. The rest is like, in the past, it was so like easy and organic. And I appreciate you reaching out to me and just kind of like being
Mhm.
supportive. And here we are now collaborating and, sharing our stories
Yeah.
with the rest.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful, right? I
Yeah.
knew right away, and when I watched you on that summit, I'm like, oh my gosh, how fun! And I don't. usually do that. So I reached out. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I feel very humble, so a little like, people are busy, but I wanted to reach out to you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And here we are now, it's like you say, feels like, old soul connection from we traveled together many times. So because you
Hmm.
so easily resonate and it's very organic. And yeah, now let's shift a little bit into what you share a part of your experience. And again, read the
Hmm.
book here. It tells you a lot
Thank you.
more in depth and let's share what you're doing today. I know you're a teacher, you are putting on retreats and other stuff that you have coming up. But yeah, share with the audience
Sure.
what you're doing today, what your soul's gifts.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I am very humble, as I said, but I definitely identify with being a teacher. I like to share what I learned and how I learned it, and then how it affected me, and then some things I was able to develop or recognized to, a way to deliver information or messages from either my guidance system or that of the individuals I work with in through beautiful um technology, I call it, which is light language. So the receiving inspired messages had always been a thing. But we never, a lot of people call it channeling, and I always had a difficult time using those terms simply because I felt like it was overused, And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know, but it is it's like, it's like I'm a transfer device. That's how I call the channel. But yes, so inspired messages come through. So now, okay, meet individuals and groups in classes, in individual classes or group classes, and guide them through different practices. And a normal session, there's no such thing. Every session is unique, but usually there's a part that is quite physical practice, a physical, like it involves your body, whether you can move a little bit or not moving at all, but I will move to guide the individual or the group through energy purification and cultivation practices. And some of these are quite popular, but they're very ancient, such as body tapping, tapping our whole body, shaking, and then it will involve a dynamic meditation. So qigong, depending on where you're from, it's the same. So energy movement. And some of these energy movements will be forms that are quite known, or they may be just inspired movement. And so I like to have people just follow and do whatever like follow as much as you can, but the movements will be inspired. So whatever the person is needing, whether they came for just like I'm, recovering from a surgery or whatever it is, or an actual, I have this huge hole in my heart, I need to help with, be feeling a little more comfortable and operating in everyday life, then the guidance comes just for that person. And so the movements could be very rapid, could be slow movement, resembling maybe Tai Chi movements. And then I would guide them through a visualization journey that is more of healing. And so this is more like like a shamanic journey, or active dreaming, I call the journey where we um yeah, where like there'll be some guidance just for that person. And so the sessions are unique, as I said, but I also provide the recording for integration practice, for continuous integration practice. If one wants only certain parts of the let's say energy healing session, it would be just light language, because in my experience, it just for myself and others, it's just so direct, and it bypasses our brain. you know. So light language, that's why I call it technology of the soul, because it will just, it is a transmission of vibration. And so whether one resonates with words, sounds, or movements, whatever's coming out of what, you know, whatever is being transmitted, the, you know, in a state of presence, when a person can be calm enough, the nervous system is relaxed, that you can, you know, be an open vessel, you know, in a receptive, surrendered state, um, the transmission is active multiple hours and days after. And so it stays out. Sometimes, you know, we're only able to receive a certain amount of information, which is energy, and other times it just lingers in our fields until we're ready, and then maybe it just jumps in whenever like our heart's open enough, you know. So that's how I visualize things, and I'll describe this. So yes, it's pleasure to work with people in this way, and it is a, you know, collection of my own experiences, my own training. I like to describe for maybe the little more rational left brain person, and I'm one of them, to exactly what's happening. And then you know, have a more spiritual journey.
How I'm curious, how did light language come to you, or how was that journey?
Great question. Yeah, so when I was in northern Arizona, I started seeing a healer, and angelic earth resonance is the modality that she developed. Her name is Jennifer Roble, a wonderful, beautiful being. And she uses light language in her sessions, which are really an integration of energy healing, sound healing, intuitive guidance. And this became a huge part of my journey, because and this is when I was teaching and had my own studio of qigong and, you know, energy cultivation practices. And then I immediately had to incorporate this, and not for with everyone, because of course light language can be totally weird, like what is going on, you know. And that was my experience at first. I'm like, I don't know what is happening, but like my whole everything recognizes this, but my brain says, should I understand these words? And no, of course not, because it's not supposed to, it's, you know, it's the brain's not designed to receive that. And so through this work, and then you know, I wanted to learn more, and then I attended an apprenticeship, which lasted a year, and it ended in 2021. And then I just expanded on my own more and more. I do resonate a lot with two great teachers, Judy Satori and Jamie Price. And that's it. That's all I want to do. So I know there's a, yeah. So I practice light language every day in my meditation through movement, and it became a huge part of my sessions, to the point where a regular Qigong class was very difficult to, it's still just difficult to just do that, you know, but I do still, it's okay. And then it's very powerful for me to employ, you know, to be in service in this way, to be able to receive these beautiful messages through my heart and just radiate out in this way. And then of course it took a lot of understanding that, you know, kind of like you have to eliminate the whole, I feel silly, people are going to think I'm crazy, my family doesn't understand what I'm doing, you know. So like acceptance, like, well, I feel something and my heart knows. And really that's all that matters. And so this is what I said earlier, like my whole life changed when my perspective about how to see things, you know, came from this giant eye here, instead of like, it doesn't make sense. You know, society says I'm supposed to do this. And so now it changed, you know, and then, yeah, not
Breaking
everyone
up.
gets it.
Yeah, it's breaking away from the programming, right? And the fear base that is put on. And so you
Yeah.
mentioned that you get messages, light language messages every day, and you mentioned it earlier. What message did you get today? Curious. Is there something you can share with us?
Yes, I can. Let me get my note right here, because there's so much. I'm gonna try to be respectful of your time. Uh, so sorry. So one
Okay.
message through the light language, and then I ask. So I ask for So in my morning practice, I meditate, and then what is best for me to know, unless I have something in particular. So today was just like most days. I'm like, what is it that I should know? And then a transmission came through, and I'm like, okay, show me in the symbols. And I work with symbols a lot. Like I am just possessed, not possessed, like consumed by like understanding symbols. I love them. So anyway, so I pulled some of these Mayan glyph cards and illustrations, and one was the pyramid. And the pyramid to me represents our the human being, which is this container of two divine forces, the yin and the yang, feminine, masculine. So our role, so the being the pyramid is what creates, we're the third point of um we're the third force. So between the two, the duality, we're the ones that can integrate and create, that sacred union or that beautiful integration, so which creates harmony. And in fact, like, so when I see the pyramid, a triangle, for me is like, oh right, that's our job. Our whole purpose is to be able to create harmony within duality, in our mind, in our mind, which is the heart, but in our brain, in the heart, and then in the body, in the physical body. And then the other one was Ish. Ish is the shaman, or the heart knowing, is, the let's say the wiser aspect of who we are, which I call spirit. And then soul is also very wise, but different. And this is just the guidance, like to follow your highest, like all the wisdom that we've accumulated, and we know how to do this. So we are just like a little bit lost, like lost little puppies in this body. And so our role is really to, figure out a way to find, to be that third point, to be, between the cosmos and the earth. We're the ones in the middle. And so long transmission. So that's what I'm saying. So with the light language, it may be a short, transmission, but it's packed with information. And as it comes through the messages, I mean, for example, cards, or I would write it down, then, um, a beautiful picture would come out about these messages. And a lot of those I have shared in Beads of Light and my upcoming work as well, because this is how I enjoy sharing. And I've, kind of, mm, surrendered to this process last year, when I'm like, this is how I'm gonna share. I'm just gonna do this. So,
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's a wonderful practice and messages. I mean, I'm also about not so like so much like you, but I do like when I pull cards, it's always what needs to be heard or said or seen. It just brings that awareness of something. It's in your field. And also, like, I love symbology too. Like right here behind me, the bear,
right.
California, the
Right.
star is the North Star. There's so much symbology to things, to like flags, to like you mentioned, pyramids. I've been there in those pyramids as well, but that was a long time ago before I was awake. It was more of a like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, checking off the box. But yeah, the symbology of everything, like to the number of things. I love that.
Right.
That's why I say I call myself a spiritual archaeologist, because I like to dig and dig, and like you said, you peel the
Mm-hmm.
layers. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, symbols have always caught my attention, no matter, even when I didn't realize that this was a language, back when I was a child too. I would, you're driving around, my parents are driving, and I'm looking out the window and I'm observing the shape of things. And I mean, I would say this, of course, then I shut this hall down, because I was like the weird kid. But, I would say this, and they're like, wow, that's really weird. There's something weird to notice. And I'm like, why is it like in this shape? Anyways, but now yeah, I know it's a language of the universe that talks to us in this way. And for me, this is how it speaks to me. And,
I love that. Yeah, the language of the universe. And that helps because we're such a extrovert talker society that is talk, 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 and it's less about listening.
mhm.
So I love it how like light language is just the sound, it's not deciphering what translation it is into your language, right?
Mhm.
Sign language is the language of the universe. So I may interpret it however works for me, and you may interpret it a different way. It's not like a
Right.
universal meaning that we put into a certain language like we do right now. So that's wonderful to be connected to the universe through. Like there's so many other languages that, like,
Of
astrology is
course.
the language
Yes,
of the stars.
absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and there's so much more than outside of our brain, outside of the
Absolutely.
intellect. Yeah. So,
Mhm.
yeah. And tell us what else. I know you're gonna start working, doing like workshops
We
and
have a couple retreats
retreats.
coming.
Yeah.
Yes, very exciting in central Italy, just in my little fun town in central Italy. And then in in the Alps in April with our dear friend and colleague Ami, she's the founder of Joy Through Travel. It'll be a nice journey to Damanhur, which is a sacred place, and then yeah, probably others for next, but not in the summer. It's too warm in Italy in the fall. But
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I mean, yeah, I've heard of Damanhur. I've seen all their temples of humanity
yeah,
that are so connected to consciousness and the soul and everything. That will be so exciting. And yeah, I
right.
agree with you. I'm like, as I'm planning my year ahead, it's like over here in California, it's been so extremely hot this year. I know in Italy too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. I know
Yeah,
it's getting
so I'm
worse.
like, yeah, I just want, like, for next year I already told my partner, oh, we're going to the ocean all the time because I need to cool off. It's so hot.
Right. Yeah, definitely the ocean. Do it.
Yeah. Yes. And tell us a little bit more of what you have in the future. I hear a second book is
Oh,
coming.
thank you. Yes, it's finished. Yay. Okay, so I'm excited about this project actually that um was yeah, it was a very beautiful process on how it came through me this summer, and it's complete. I can share more soon, but it is a more practical, I would say more practical than Beads of Light. Maybe not. It's still metaphysical, beautiful spiritual concepts that we can integrate in our everyday life. However, it provides a path. I was given a beautiful path with what I call way stations, which are we can understand them as points of understanding or states of consciousness on how to create harmony in our life, and so how to balance, how to be functional within, our everyday reality, which is polarity and duality. So it's beautiful how it came through, and I just love it so much, it's like another baby. And so we will see. You'll have more information soon.
Excellent. I look forward to that. So exciting. Yes. And do you want to share with the audience how they can find you, your website, your social media if you have, so they know how to reach
Thank
out
you.
to you? I will put
Sure.
everything below the video, but
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Yes, so my website is Cosmic Ocean Frequencies, plural frequencies. And yes, you can check out offerings, my sharing space, which is where I share some inspired messages, some teaching practices, and some audio recordings as well. In my sharing space is kind of like a um, think about this and see how you feel kind of space. And then social media and Instagram and Facebook will be on my website, so it's easier. But Cosmic Ocean Frequencies. Yeah, thank you. And check out my work on Beads of Light.
awesome. Thank you. I'm curious what the name of Cosmic Ocean Frequencies? How did that come
You're
about?
curious how that,
Yeah.
yeah, interesting. So I'll try to be brief. So, of course, I love the ocean. That is just like who I am. And even though I live, yeah, I know, even though I lived in Arizona for a total of 10 years and I love the desert, the heat and the dryness, everything, and then the, 300 days of sun, very solar person, I love the ocean. This concept of cosmic ocean frequencies came to me during my training, my deep training and awakening experiences when we had the opportunity to connect with our higher self, let's say, and understand what is that vibration, what is the name. But the name is probably not the right term of our soul, right? But it's more of like, what is that message? And so the message I received, and mind you that to get to that point, to receive a clear message, is a lot of clearing the mind and training. So it's a long process of being completely empty so that you can be clear on the message that you receive. So and that's what I like to train people on, sometimes we get confused about the message, intuitive messages that we receive, or we immediately doubt and replace with something else simply because we're not able to be centered and grounded and to connect with the earth first before being able to receive cosmic wisdom, which sometimes comes through the earth for a reason. It's designed for the earth to be our filter before it reaches us. So, and I speak about this also in my training, but so the cosmic ocean, the name that came to me as the vibration of what the mission or my purpose is was the current that moves the seas, the oceans. And what that, through the expert guidance of the spiritual teacher that was guiding this, which is a very experienced teacher of many of my trainings, was translated as the heavenly ocean, actually. And I've always felt that heavenly, I had a difficult time using the words heaven and divine, only because I know where it comes from, probably because of, I grew up in Italy. We breathe Catholicism in the air, and I wanted to kind of separate myself from that. And that's a wonderful practice for many people, but I didn't resonate with that frame of mind anymore. And so, and of course, this is very limited thought, but at that time, I'm like, cosmic is better than heavenly. And of course, it's not, but that's what resonated with me. And I think it's important to find the words that match your vibration. And so that's where it came from. So a very long explanation, but through my work, and even after reading some of the descriptions that I wrote years ago about, what I'm doing, it is so interesting how, now I'm really uncovering, now these last couple of years, I've been uncovering with more clarity ways to find balance, and that is the mission. So the ancients always had this idea of primordial waters, where everything was always water, right? Even in ancient Egypt, we had, Nut, the mother, and it was like the ocean of stars, and then knew the ocean, the masculine principle of like the big wave, let's say. And I felt like this is who we are. We are both. We are the yin and the yang. We are the positive and negative. We are everything, and then this is our frequency. But to find balance in every aspect of life is the purpose. So that is, yeah, of course. When we talk about symbols, it's never an easy answer, a short answer, let's say.
But I love it. That's why it gets us so connected, right? It's like it's the storytelling part of it, how unraveling how your process was, So to me, what happens to I love it. Thank you for that wonderful share. What happens to me too? I would have an experience, and then years later, something else would happen, and boom, automatically connects those two. Like it was like,
Mhm.
there's the full message, or yeah, it's just so if you're open to that, to the cosmos, to the earth, the messages just come. And to me, that's kind of like I said here, is like a web. We weaving things together,
Yes,
and you
right.
also, like in your title, your book is beats of alignment. So it's things come in little drops or beats, or
Hmm.
and then it's about we are the weavers or our life story.
Beautiful. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we are. And we should be really impressed by our story, whatever that is. Most of the time, especially when we're going through a difficult time, we feel like, oh, I can't believe that happened, really upset, but actually, We
Own
should be
it.
really, yeah, but we
Have
should
to
be
own
really
it.
like, I always say, you should be in awe of your story because everybody's got a great story, anyways.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I just want to ask you one last thing. What food, I mean, food for thought that you can leave the audience with, or whatever you like to share, some last words of
Hmm.
wisdom from you.
Thank you. Yes, briefly, I will say that everyone uh, can do their best to find time every day for self-care practices. And it's not an indulgence, it's not a something nice that my friend said. It is not because I'm stressed and I have to do it. It is like actually uh an act of self-love and generosity towards ourselves. So especially these last 5, 10 years, like, oh, come on, we need to we need to be able to recognize, especially I think women, we feel like we have to do all these things and multitask as a superpower. It is not. It is a disorder. I'm telling you, I was like Wonder Woman about it. And self-care became, like my life. And so I think this is very important to recognize. And when I say, even now when people are listening and hearing self-care, yeah, who has time for that, to really like catch yourself, like what are the obstacles to self-care in my life, and then really think about how can and that doesn't mean you need an hour a day if you don't have it. So it can start with just 5 minutes. Telling you 10 minutes of something can do wonders for your nervous system, one, and then just for your heart. So that's, yeah, big banners, self-care.
Beautiful. Yes, I'm all about that too, because if you don't take care of yourself, something else will make you make the
Yeah,
time, for
yeah,
it
it
later.
happens. Yep.
Yeah, thank you for those beautiful words to close this with. I appreciate you, Enrica,
Thank you.
and thank you for being here. And thank you, the audience, for listening. And look forward to, I recommend Be to Light again, like wonderful stories. And looking forward to what you're bringing together for next year, these trips and your second book, Mystery. We still don't know when it's coming out, but it's coming out soon.
Soon, soon. Thank you so much, Teresa. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, my dear sister. And thank you, everybody, for being here. And we'll find you in the next episode. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.